Well, hello everybody and welcome to another episode, and in this episode we're going to take a look at a beautiful little 40mm lens from Pentax. We're going to have a look at this wonderful lens and camera cleaning kit from Nitecore, an electronic cleaner, and we're also going to check out how I repaired this beautiful old CZJ Zeiss Yana lens with nothing more than some of this. But first we'll have a look at our 40mm lens from Pentax. Now, I'm a sucker for the 40mm focal length. I absolutely love it, and I also love Pentax lenses as well. So when I found out about this one, the 40mm f2.8 from Pentax, I just had to give it a try. So this is what I bought. It's a beautiful little tiny pancake of a lens, and it really is very, very small. This is one of the smallest lenses that I've ever shot. It really is quite astonishingly small for the focal length that it has. These are not expensive lenses. A good copy of one of these will cost you between £40 and £60 or thereabouts. I was really lucky with this one. I saw it sitting on an auction at £5 and it sat there for a long time. I managed eventually to bag it for £15, so you can be lucky. Now, the most striking thing about this lens is its size. Let me show it to you a little more closely. So there's our little Pentax lens, and you can see that it really is a very, very small lens indeed. Look how thin it is and how slim it is. It's really very tiny, and I don't think it's really very much more than an inch long. The aperture ring is at the back here, and the focus ring is just in front of it here. Let's have some focus, please. Thank you. The focus ring is just in front of it here, and there's not very much room between the two. So actually I found that although this is great in terms of weight and handling in such a small package, I did find it difficult with the camera to my eye to find that focus ring at times. So that was something I found a little difficult. The focus throw is very small on this lens. What is it now? It's actually not, well, maybe just over 90 degrees, but it's about 90 degrees. So a very, very fast lens, very, very quick and easy lens to focus. Everything about this lens is tiny. The glass elements are tiny. The body is tiny. Everything is really small, and it's a very, very small lens. But how does it shoot? Well, really nicely, actually, at least for the most part, but more on that shortly. Now, this for me is a street lens. I think the 40mm focal length lends itself perfectly to use on the street, so I took it to town to have a play around with it. A lens like this really develops your street photography skills. I love street portraits, but they can be a bit scary to make. With a lens like this, a 40mm lens, you have to get close. You have to get into people's personal space, at least to some extent. So you have to develop a style that makes people feel good about the experience of being photographed, and this lens helped me to do that. I kind of developed a style where I'd see the subject. I was pre-focused anyway to about 5 or 8 feet. I'd shoot quickly, smile, say thank you, and walk on. And using that method, I didn't get one bad reaction. In fact, some people seemed quite flattered to be photographed and that I'd considered them an interesting subject. So that was really nice. I didn't shoot this lens wide open though, partly because I wanted to zone focus and partly because, well, it is a little soft wide open at f2.8. So I shot at f8, which meant there wasn't too much need to worry too much about focus, and I found that the lens worked really nicely in this way, and I made what I thought anyway were some quite nice images. It gives unusual colours for a Pentax lens. They're quite strong and saturated, whereas Pentax lenses I've tried in the past have had rather more of a muted, pastel-y sort of colour signature, but this is rather different. It's rather more saturated, and I do like the colours this lens gives very much. In fact, some of these shots, it seemed to me, have something of a filmy quality, something of a quality reminiscent of the way old images used to look, made on film, made through these very lenses. In fact, I do like this lens a lot though. I love its small size. I like that it seems to be at home on the street, and I really like that it actually taught me something and it helped me to develop my style. Now, when it comes to blur, yeah, there is some if you want it, and what there is pleasant enough. It's soft and smooth if you stay wide open and near to the subject. But for me, this lens is more about street than blur, and I was very happy with some of the images that I made with it. But throughout the day, it became clear that all was not clear. At least the lens wasn't quite clear. I began to see some signs of light bleed, which is a thing that happens when you get a very bright area right next to a very dark area, and the light from the light area sort of bleeds over, spills over into the dark area and spoils the contrast. And I could see that this lens had some haze or maybe some fungus. Indeed, when I looked at it through a bright light with a bright light source behind it, I could see some sort of hazy lack of clarity within there somewhere. It looked a fairly easy sort of lens to dismantle, so I decided to have a go at cleaning it up. Most of the parts in this lens are very, very small. It's a small lens, so it's a little bit fiddly to do, but it is simple and straightforward, and dismantling this lens doesn't hide any real surprises, at least not as far as I dismantled it anyway. It was simple enough to undo the rings with a lens spanner, although I did have to close my lens spanner right down to its minimum distance setting. It wouldn't go any smaller. So I got the first ring off and the first element just comes out, so I gave that a clean. Another ring held the next element in, and the next element is a cemented doublet. That's where two glass pieces, two glass elements are actually glued together with special cement. And in fact, that's where the trouble was, and there wasn't too much I could do about that there and then. What seemed to be happening was that the glue between the two glass elements that were cemented together had just begun to separate a little bit, and as I looked closely at it, I could see rings of colour where the glue was just coming apart, just beginning to separate. So I wasn't entirely sure what to do about that. I did once fix a separating doublet in a very old Russian lens from the 1930s by putting it in a pan of boiling water for an hour, and that seemed to bring the glue back together and revivify it. But I wasn't sure whether that method would work with this one. So if anybody has a fix for it, if anybody knows how to just maybe a liquid that I could put those elements in that would just allow the glue to resettle, so I could push it back, squeeze those elements back together. If anyone knows a quick fix for that, please do let me know in the comments box below. So putting it back together was simple enough, but a lens should always go back together cleaner than it came apart, and for that you need a good blower, and blowers don't get much better than this one. This is the Nitecore Blowerbaby, and this is an electronic lens and camera cleaning system. It gives a stream of pure clean air with a maximum speed of apparently 43 miles per hour, and that is enough to clean any awkward little bits or particles or bits of dirt that are stuck to your camera. I didn't buy this. This was sent to me by the people at Nitecore to test, but I found it to be a really useful little tool. Let me show you a bit more closely. So there's our Nitecore blower, and the operating control is underneath here. Now if you give this a push and hold it on, then a continuous stream of air comes out, and you can do short little bursts with that control. And if you push it twice in rapid succession, then it stays on. And just push it once to turn it off. It really is quite a jet that comes out of this blower, and it's able to dislodge pretty much anything in an enclosed space like a camera or a lens far more effectively than a manual blower can. It's a filtered system. Let me show you the filter actually. The filter's on the side here. So although the jet is high speed, no harmful particles can get through, just clean, pure air. And if we just twist that filter, it comes off. There's the filter material inside. And actually there are two filters provided. This is the lens cleaning filter and sort of general camera dust cleaning filter, and there's also a filter for cleaning camera sensors. Here's the sensor filter, and you can see it's coloured blue, and it has a very, very much finer mesh on it so that no harmful particles are going to get through, and that gives an even higher level of protection than the ordinary filter does. And it just turns on there and locks in place, and it's a really great system for cleaning any stubborn little particles out of your camera. My Sony A7 here, which probably does need a little clean, it hasn't had a clean in a while, so and we'll pop our lens back on, and the sensor is now perfectly clean. This little tool is very nicely made, and it's a good shape to hold. It's very handy to hold in your hand, and the controls are very simple to operate as well. It's got a really high capacity battery too, and I haven't needed to recharge it yet. It really does seem to last for quite some time. It's a great general purpose cleaner for cameras, computers, or anything else really. It's a very versatile tool. Now with this kit comes something very, very handy, which if I can get it out of the box I'll show you. So there we are. Packaging can be quite a nightmare, can't it? So this is the camera cleaning pen that comes with the blower tool, and this is a really useful thing as well. Let me show you this. So there's our little lens cleaning pen, and if we open the lid we'll see that inside are two little brushes, and these are great little things. One is fine, this is the fine one, and one is slightly coarser. That's this one here. That's the slightly coarser one, and these are for just general cleaning of cameras, and I found these really useful for cleaning dust off cameras, because once you attach this to the blower, then you get a really powerful tool for actually cleaning stuff off the lens, or off the camera. Now that turns it into a really useful tool for general camera cleaning. Cameras collect dust very easily. Black bodies show it rather worse, and cleaning means that no dust is going to get anywhere it shouldn't, like under control surfaces, for example. Cameras look much nicer when they're cleaning, and this little attachment gets into all the difficult to clean small spaces that cameras and electronic equipment has. Now this little device has another trick up its sleeve. Let me show you over here. So if we take off the end, there's a magnetic key that holds the end on, and if we turn it round, we'll see there is a little carbon brush on the end, and that is for cleaning lenses. It's for cleaning directly the glass pieces and the glass elements of your lenses. You have to use it very delicately, of course, but it's great for removing stubborn spots, little tricky bits. This is a very fine tip. It won't scratch your lens, and it will clean off any finger marks or any grease stains that have got onto the lens. So altogether then, this is a really great little kit for cleaning cameras, lenses, sensors, bodies, computers, really any sort of equipment, mechanical equipment or electronic equipment that might gather dust. It's ideal for cameras, it's designed for cameras, and it's a very handy little tool, and I'm going to make much more use of this one as I undergo my various lens projects. So the Pentax lens went back together nice and clean, although not quite as good as it was when it was new. So as I say, let me know your tips for separated doublets. If you've got one, let me know what it is in the comments box below, and we'll see if we can do anything with this old lens. A great little lens though, really nice for street photography. It doesn't quite have the performance of the Konica 40mm, but it's not too far off. And that very short focus throw makes it very simple to use too. A lovely little lens, one I'm not going to give up on. I want to get that doublet sorted. I want to use this lens, but even as it is, it's quite nice. So I'm very happy with it. So from one ongoing project to another, and I'm glad to say I've made some progress with this lens, the Zeiss Yana Flectagon 20mm f4. Now I bought this lens in, what shall we say, less than perfect condition. There were lots of fine scratches on the front element, and that is, well, it's probably one of the worst faults you can have on a lens. It really lowers contrast. It causes light bleed from bright areas into dark areas, and it just generally makes the lens seem a bit dull and not very good. I really wanted to recoat this front element, but that's proved much more difficult to do than I thought. There don't seem to be many people who will offer that service. So the next best solution, I thought, would be to polish the scratches out, at least until I can find somebody who can coat it for me. So I needed a very fine polish to do that, and I found it in the form of this stuff, toothpaste, which contains a very fine abrasive. Now, I knew, of course, that this course of action might take the coating off or significantly reduce it or weaken it, but better that, I reasoned, than lots and lots of fine scratches. They will, I think, degrade the image far worse than taking a little of the coating or possibly even most of the coating off. So that was my thinking. So as you can see, I gave it a considerable polishing, and I did manage to reduce and more or less completely remove those fine scratches. So this stuff is actually a very good fine polish for glass or for lenses. Light bleed is reduced in the lens. Images are clearer, colours seem more intense and more present and more full. It's brought much of the character back to the lens, I'm very glad to say. It's not perfect yet by any means. I still need to look at the aperture mechanism, that's still seized on it, but it's better than it was, and sometimes that's the best approach with old machinery. And it's not always possible to repair it to as new standards. Sometimes you have to repair it as well as you can, and I think I've reached a good compromise, a reasonable compromise, because what I've got is a much nicer lens. The images are clearer and sharper, colours are more alive, but the coating is significantly reduced, so it now has something of a vintage glow. So it's not as new, but it is much more usable, and I do kind of like this lens in the form that I've got it to now. So a beautiful little street lens from Pentax, good ones of which are available for between £40 to £60 or thereabouts. A very efficient and effective electronic camera, lens and sensor cleaning system from Nitecore. A very nice piece of kit indeed, and I'm very glad to say a significantly improved Zeiss Yana Flectagon 40mm f2.8. So that's it from me for this week. Please don't forget to like, subscribe and ring the jolly old bell thing before you go. And if you like the content on this channel and you'd like to support it and to help it grow and develop, you can do that at patreon.com/Zenography, and you can do that for as little as $1 per month. As ever, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time for some more Zenography.